Welcome to the Audrey Dahlgren Show. Get ready. We're going on athletic adventures all over the great state of Michigan. And the show begins now. Here's your host, Audrey Dahlgren.
Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome into today's show. As always, this is the hashtag Tuesday Tune Show, my favorite one, honestly, of the week. And you know what? We're going to jump right into today. This is a song by the one and only Notorious B.I.G., and it's called Notorious Thugs. All right. This is a classic, Alex. I had to go with it today on this Tuesday. If you have a tune that I'm glad. If you have a tune that you'd like to share, you can always do so by putting it on my Facebook page, The Audrey Dahlgren Show, or on Twitter at Dahlgren Show. And don't forget, you can always listen live to each of my episodes by downloading the Spotlight Radio Network One Touch app. I'm especially pumped about this show for a number of reasons. First, before we bring in the great Liam Boylan-Pett and for what will be a wonderful conversation about track and field at the 2020 Tokyo Games, it's my birthday today. And so...
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you.
Jeez.
And I want to give a shout out to everybody so far who has wished me a happy birthday today because they've been rolling in. And this is the great Larry Bird Jersey 33 birthday.
There you go.
For me. So I'm just really thankful for everybody and everything in my life, and I just wanted to say that, so thank you. Also, it warrants a quick discussion. How do you feel about birthdays, Alex? Are you more of like, let's make this into a big extravaganza kind of thing, or are you good with a cake and just your family being around you to sing happy birthday to you?
Yeah, up until about 18. Like I loved the party, doing all that kind of stuff and the gifts and everything. But once I was past 18, like making your own money and kind of thing, I like, acknowledging it, and it is something special, but I'm not a big, like, blowout for the birthday. And that's for my for me personally. I would have probably forgotten my birthday if my fiance and my family hadn't been reminding me, like, the week before, like, hey, your birthday's Friday, what do you want to do, kind of thing. I wouldn't have noticed until, like, it popped up on my phone. So for me personally, it doesn't, it doesn't carry too much weight, but, I have no problems with a little birthday celebration here and there. It's an excuse to get together and have a good time and just celebrate, that one person for that day. And but I'm not too big on it. How about you?
Yeah, it depends. So like, today is a Tuesday and I've got a lot of work to do today. So it's just kind of like, it's just another day.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like that way. But if there are times, to celebrate, then I absolutely want to celebrate. And so just depends, I guess. But yeah, today's not a great day for a birthday because it's just a Tuesday.
Yeah, no, but I'm lame. I'm on the lame side of it. My fiance, I should say, makes fun of me all the time because she is 10 times more excited for my birthday than I am. So it's...
Oh, yeah. I love it.
So I'm definitely I'm in the lame corner when it comes to it, but that's just me.
Well, the Olympic Games, we'll get into our chat now with Tokyo. The Olympic Games in Tokyo have been riveting, especially from a track and field standpoint, and the latest American to win gold is Ah-Thing Mu. She is the first American woman to win the 800 since Madeline Manning in 1968. That would have been the Mexico City Games. And before we get into more of her story, I want you to take a listen to the final 200 of her race.
Ah-Thing Mu has the gap on the outside, but she's left a gap on the inside there. Now she begins to hug. And Ah-Thing Mu is coming away. She's going to create history for the United States. Their first champion in half a century. A 19-year-old wins it. A 19-year-old takes the silver. Keely Ah-Thing Mu.
All right, so Mu's 800 time was 1 minute and 55.21 seconds. It's a new national record, and she's only 19 years old. She turned pro in June, signing with Nike. She was a freshman phenom at Texas A&M. And so we're going to bring in Liam Boylan-Pett now to talk about this, as well as just all of the other events that have been taking place at the Olympics in Tokyo, because he has been glued to the tube for this race and all of the other races. I don't know if you guys remember, but we had him on the show a couple of months ago, and, you know, he was gearing up for the Olympics, getting ready for the Olympic trials. He has a magazine called Lope, and so he, you know, writes all these articles for his Lope magazine. And on top of that, too, you know, he contributes for the Olympics for NBC. And he has a lot of great insight to share with us. And so he's on with us now. Liam, how are you? And we were just talking about Athing Mu's, you know, dramatic performance and finish. And I have to know, what did you think about that performance that she put on?
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. I haven't really slept the last couple of days because I'm trying to watch as much Tokyo Olympics as possible, and the timeline is just really, really messing with me. But yeah, this morning, I mean, that race was remarkable. I kind of expected it. I expected her to win, but just to lead the whole way and do it in such dominating fashion for a 19-year-old with such poise is just incredible.
Right, and that was the thing, too, because she really didn't seem like she was challenged too much in that race.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about Athing Mu is that she just is. We haven't seen anybody like her, I guess. I mean, I know people have run faster than her, but at 19 to be doing this and just to be so confident to lead from the front, it's that David Rudisha did the same thing in 2012 in London in the men's race, and it was probably the best 800 run ever. He set a world record, so that's a little bit of a difference, but she just today raced like David Rudisha, which is remarkable in its own sense, and the fact that as a 19-year-old she's doing that, I'm excited to see what she does in 2024 and 2028 and heck, maybe even 2032.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you look at her too, she does not look like a 19-year-old by any means. You know, she is just, her body is in such great shape. And so what too do you think that this means for the United States too when it comes to middle distance as a whole at the Olympics, because this was a record-breaking performance that she put on?
Yeah, so now she's the fastest American ever, and she's 19. And I do think I saw some reporters that are on site in Tokyo. She said today that her next goal will be to win the 400 and the 800 at the Olympics. So Paris could be just even more remarkable. But she also does want to break that 800 world record, which is 153.4, I want to say. And it was back in the 1970s and 80s when doping was kind of running rampant in the sport. And so a lot of people don't think that's really the world record anyway, but Athing is ready to go out there and try to break it. And it's not out of the question, that's for sure, which is just really, really exciting to see what she's going to be able to do. And we also should hopefully get to see her in the 4x4 this weekend. I'm thinking they'll pick her for that event since she is the NCAA champ. And I think the American leader in terms of times this year. So hopefully we'll see her one more time in the Olympics.
Yeah, and before the trials started, you had said something interesting about her in your one of your Lope articles. And I want you to share that with everybody, and you just give a little more context to that.
So Athing won the 800, like I set an NCAA record in the 800, but then at NCAA's ran the 400 and just won and set an NCAA record in that event as well. And then anchored her team with, I think, a 48 high split, which is insane, and anchored her team to an NCAA championship and NCAA record. And in my mind, she was one of the best 400 meter runners in the world. And I still kind of stand by that. So I thought, why not run the 400 at the Olympic trials? Like, she was almost guaranteed to make the team. And then run the 4x4 and be on a team with Allison Felix, who's her own amazing story. And I thought it's crazy that she's running the 800 because in rounds in an 800, there's so many different things that can happen. Like, she did actually get tripped in her 800 a little bit, but she stayed up at the Olympic trials. But then, I mean, I think a few people felt the same, and I was wrong. Like, that's just all there is to it. I mean, she clearly made the right decision here. She's now the American record holder and gold medalist. And it's just, I'm very willing to admit when I was wrong. And I thought that it was for sure she should run the 400, but I think this is the better route, especially because now she gets to even jump on that 4x4, most likely with Allison Felix. So it's going to be its own amazing story and kind of passing of the torch of great American 400, 800 meter runners. So I'm excited to watch those races in the upcoming days.
Yeah, that is going to be a must-see event, a must-see race for sure. And when you bring up Allison Felix, a 9-time Olympic medalist, she has 6 gold medals, 3 silver, and in the 400 prelim, she essentially breezed, to the first place finish in that. She didn't even really look that tired, and so she's going to be running in the semifinal tomorrow morning at 6:40. And do you think that she has it in her to not only make it to the final, but potentially win that gold medal?
I think I think making the final, I think she will make. I think winning that race will be extremely tough. I think it was Shaunae Miller-Uibo who out-leaned her in Rio, is a little younger and is just, I think, probably the favorite. But if Allison Felix can come back and get a medal, especially after all that she's been through in the last 5 years, she's a mother now and she's just come back as not quite as fast as she was, but that's partly because it's her 5th Olympics. So Father Time is, I guess, just kind of caught up a little bit. But for her to be here, especially when you see 3 years ago, nobody would have probably thought this. And it's just, I'm excited to watch the semi tomorrow and then also the final, because I do think if she wins a medal, it's just going to be quite the amazing, amazing thing. And I'm sure the video of her daughter watching on TV will be pretty dang fun to watch if they have that for us.
Oh, yeah. And, it's interesting, too, because I kind of feel like she's been shutting her haters down a little bit, because at 35 years old, yes, and after having a baby, a lot of people kind of just dismissed her in a sense that she wasn't going to be able to come back and to compete. And so for her to not only qualify in the 400 as an individual, and then, that 4x4 relay spot, she did have her fastest time in the qualifying with 50.02 seconds. And so I just think that it's, a remarkable story for her to be able to kind of be like, hey, I still have it.
Oh, yeah. As you said, a lot of doubters. Nike was one of those doubters, and they didn't re-sign her. And now she is running for Athleta and has her own shoe company that she started up. So on top of being this amazing runner, she's doing a lot of, and mom, she's also doing a bunch of other stuff. And it's just, she has definitely quieted any doubters. She can kind of do whatever she wants.
Right. When it comes to the male track and field athletes as well, what events, times, or performances have you been amazed by, or just, it has caught your attention?
So last night's 400-meter hurdles was a race that I was really, really looking forward to and stayed up late to watch because they put it on in Japan's morning, and it did not disappoint. I in my mind, I had picked Rai Benjamin. He's a U.S. hurdler to beat he was the world record holder, Carson Warholm, and then last night both of them ran under the world record, with Carson Warholm becoming the first person to ever run under 46 seconds for 400 meters with hurdles, and he ran 45.95, and Rai Benjamin ran 46.1, which would have also broken the old world record. And it was just, and it's one of the most impressive races I've ever seen. We were just talking about a thing and her insane race, but this might have been more just because it was a world record, and it was Beeman-esque. He skipped the jumps. Bob Beeman skipped 28 feet to break the world record. He jumped 29 feet in Mexico City in 68. Warholm went from 46.7 down to 45.9, and that kind of stuff just doesn't happen. So it was a remarkable race. And I saw one stat that he improved the world record by 1.6%, and the last time there was an improvement that big was when Michael Johnson ran 19.32 for 200 meters in 96 to break that 200-meter world record. So it's just these remarkable we're not supposed to be seeing stuff like that. So when you do, it's just unreal to watch. And that race was about as good as it gets. And I will be rewatching that one on Twitter for probably years to come.
I wonder not in a sense why this is, but it just does kind of seem like there are, you mentioned records being broken and historic things that have been happening. And so I wonder why that is sort of right now at the Olympics this year when it comes maybe specifically to track and field.
Yeah, so it's funny that in the track community, it's always like, oh, we're going to talk about the shoes again. But there have been some serious advancements in shoe technology and spikes, and just they are bouncier than they used to be. They're thicker than they used to be. They're more comfortable than they used to be. So there's a lot of different theories that whether they actually propel you or it's just you can train more in them because you're not going to get as hurt. You back when we were in high school, these spikes are just so thin. They're probably like 3 centimeters thin. Now they're an inch thick, and they have this kind of, I guess, carbon plate in them. So it's a different ball game. So the shoes are definitely part of it, but it's also, Athing Mu last night, this morning, she just went out and ran. She ran hard. And a lot of times in championship races, that doesn't happen. The guys in the 400 hurdles last night, they just went out and competed. And so it's a plenty of different factors, shoes included, but it's also just people are going out and taking what's theirs. They wanted some world records. They wanted some American records, and they're going out and doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you look forward and look ahead to races that are left, performances that are left, which ones should people be paying attention to and highlighting as in, hey, don't miss this?
Yeah, so I guess one of the first ones is probably the women's steeplechase tomorrow morning. That has Emma Coburn, who won bronze in 2016 and then the World Championship in 2017. And that's the race with the water jumps like horses do, but the women are doing that tomorrow morning. And then the men's 1500 is the race that I used to run, so that's one of my favorites. It's 3.5 minutes of just jostling and positioning and getting yourself in gear. And then also the women's 5K and 1500, because Sifan Hassan won the 10K and now is trying to win the 5K and the 1500, which is, my mind is like, can't work correctly because that should also a thing that shouldn't be possible.
Yeah, no, it should not. I give people a little bit more insight into the 1500, if you will, and why it is, I think outside of the 800, it is the most difficult race that there is because there's a lot of jostling that goes on there, but please give people, a better insight into the 1500.
Yeah, the 1500 is just this. So it's the metric mile. So it's 109 meters short of the full mile. And everybody knows about sub 4 and stuff like that. But the 1500, it's just a little quicker. So it's 3 3/4 laps. And it's pretty exciting for me. Just back when I used to run it, you'd often get out pretty hard and everyone would settle. And it looks kind of like this big pack just moving slowly along, even though people are running 60-second per quarter pace often or faster. And it looks like it's just this nice calm race, but in there's just so much jostling and your mind is moving around like, oh, I need to be in this position, I need to be in that position. So there's a lot of elbows, not like hard elbows, but a lot of elbows, a lot of somebody shoving your back, you shoving somebody's back to say, hey, I'm here. And a lot of just movement, and it's chaos on the inside, but it looks so calm on the outside. And it's just this fun thing. And then at some point, somebody is going to freak out and start to pick up the pace. And the other funny thing about the 1500 is everyone thinks they have the best kick. So it often comes down to the last 150, 100 meters of just people getting into position and then going as hard as they can over that last 100 meters. And it's usually only one person that has the best kick. So it's such a game and so many different paces and different ways it can play out. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. And Matthew Centrowitz won gold in 2016. It's going to be tough for him to do that again, but there is an American who could medal, which would be pretty remarkable given his last 5 years as well.
Yeah, and have you been impressed too, I guess, with, the United States in the track and field events?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was early on a swimmer or somebody tweeted we should be celebrating gold and silver and bronze as well, because that's still really, really hard to accomplish. And I don't think the U.S. team has won probably as many golds as they would hope, but Rai Benjamin, he won silver, but he ran the second fastest time ever. So you can't really complain about that. And I do think that there's been some things where the U.S. team hasn't done quite as well as they would hope. I know that in the hammer throw, they were hoping to get the returning world champ, and she placed 8th, I think, today. So there's been some disappointments, but there's also still some time. And I think that Noah Lyles and Arian Knight in the men's 200, and they have a shot at some medals. The women's 400 hurdles might sweep the medals tomorrow. So there's tonight actually is the 400 hurdles. So there's some space in the relays. The 4x4 I think will win both. So they're going to do just fine.
Yeah, and you do make a good point there, because a lot of people they just focus on the gold and don't realize that winning a silver and a bronze medal is just as good. I mean, that's hard in itself to do. So yeah, keep that in mind, everybody. Don't just think about the gold. The 4x4 too. I always love that race because it's super fast. It's extremely competitive, and I guess as you mentioned too with Allison and thing. And it'll be one to look out for sure. And Liam, please to just remind people and tell them if they want to read what you're writing about, during these summer games in Tokyo, where can they find your stuff and how can they follow you so that, because Liam, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. And you should definitely read his stuff.
Well, for this one, just follow me on Twitter because I'm not really writing much other than my knee-jerk reaction. So it's just a lot of, I guess, typing into a void in all caps, yelling about how exciting all these races typing. Are. But so that's I'm at Liam_BP. So that's where you can get all my quick reactions to track and field at the Olympics and some excitement about track and field at the Olympics.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Liam, as always, I appreciate you hopping on. Great insight, like I said, and have fun watching the rest of this play out because, it is very riveting and compelling.
Hey, you too, and thanks so much.
All right. That is Liam Boylan-Pett right there, one of the greatest runners in our area, the country, and great insight as always. So we are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to transition over to football. 'Tis the season, right? Today was the first padded practice for the Detroit Lions in Allen Park, and we're going to hear from first-year coach Dan Campbell, who said yesterday that this is where you find out who's who. We'll see you soon.
Thinking of a new air conditioning unit for your home? Hi, Peggy Doty with Doty Mechanical. A new Carrier high-efficiency AC unit will lower your energy usage and increase your home comfort. Current Carrier Cool Cash offers and available utility rebates mean your savings have never been better.
Call Doty Mechanical today at 327-7777 or visit us at dotymechanical.com for your free estimate. For heating and cooling, the names to know, Doty Mechanical and Carrier, turn to the experts.
YouTube is testing a cheaper subscription for ad-free viewing. The new Premium Lite offering is being tested in Europe and includes ad-free viewing across YouTube's main app on web, iOS, Android, smart TVs, and game consoles, as well as in the YouTube Kids app. However, it does not include any of YouTube Music's benefits like ad-free listening, and it doesn't include Premium's other features like background playback or offline downloads. IKEA is out with its first smart air purifier that can also be a side table. Furniture Giant releasing two Starkvine devices, a floor standalone air purifier and a side table model, which cost $130 and $190 respectively. You also need to pay for a separate $35 smart home hub to access the app-based controls. Disney's Jungle Cruise movie pulled in roughly $30 million through their Plus Premier access on the Disney Plus streaming service on its first weekend of release. That's about 33% of its $92 million overall take. Disney Plus subscribers could pay $30 to stream certain films the same day they hit theaters. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
You have an annual physical to make sure you are healthy. What do you do to make sure you remain financially fit? Mark and Jay at North Coast Wealth Management specialize in thoughtful and objective investment guidance designed to keep your finances in shape. Call today at 248-626-2000 and ask for either Mark or Jay. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Israel's public health director says the Delta variant is showing that people who got the COVID vaccine early may be experiencing waning immunity.
Lack of response to the vaccine over time has led us to suggest to people or actually allow them to be vaccinated a third time.
Dr. Sharon Alroy-Priest telling CBS News there's evidence people over age 60 vaccinated in January are more likely to get infected with COVID than those vaccinated in March. Hospital emergency rooms all across this country are filling up as coronavirus cases surge once again. Matt Stone with the Baptist Health System in Texas says
about 90% of those that are unvaccinated that are undergoing some serious health issues related to COVID have asked if they can get the vaccine.
Health Updates, Sarah Lee Kessler, NBC News Radio.
NBC News Radio, I'm Michael Kastner. New York City is shutting out those who have not gotten the coronavirus vaccine for certain activities. Mayor Bill de Blasio says this morning the city will require proof of vaccination for customers and employees for indoor dining, gyms, entertainment, and performance facilities. This will go into effect August 16th. It'll start being enforced September 13th. A gunman is dead and 3 others are injured in a workplace shooting in the Nashville area. Police were called to the Smile Direct Club warehouse around 6 this morning, where an employee reportedly opened fire during a shift change in Antioch. One of the injured employees is reportedly in critical condition. Simone Biles is making history. She talked to the Today Show after her comeback performance in the balance beam event, which was good enough for a bronze medal.
I didn't really care about the outcome. I was just happy that I made the routine and then I got to compete one more time.
Biles had withdrawn from her other individual finals due to mental health issues. Michael Kastner, NBC News Radio.
I'm Tony Cuthbert with your Spotlight Sports Update. The Tigers host the Boston Red Sox tonight in the first of a 3-game series. Detroit enters action in third place in the AL Central with a record of 51 and 57. Willie Peralta gets the start for the Tigers tonight against Red Sox hurler Garrett Richards. The Pistons began free agency by reportedly signing center Kelly Olynyk. According to the Detroit Free Press, the 3-year contract is worth $37 million. Detroit will also reportedly sign free agent forward Trey Lyles and re-sign guard Corey Joseph. And the United States had a scare put into them, but will march on to the semifinals in men's basketball in Tokyo. Team USA beat Spain 95-81 behind Kevin Durant's 29 points. Jason Tatum had 13 while Drew Holiday chipped in 12 points. Ricky Rubio had a game-high 38 in the loss for Spain.
Welcome back to the Audrey Dahlgren Show.
It's my team. It's my quarterback.
The Spotlight Radio Network.
It is officially week 2 of training camp for the Detroit Lions. And the point of emphasis today when it comes to the boys in Honolulu Blue is this. It's the first day they're practicing in pads. Some coaches like to say this is when the pajamas come off. And for first-year Lions coach Dan Campbell, this is when he, along with the rest of the Lions coaching staff, are going to find out who's who. He said that yesterday, and every day he's been speaking, nice and early around 8 a.m. to get these practices going. And prior to the first day in pads this morning, this was his opening statement when he stepped up to the podium to speak with the media.
Since we're in first pads, I was thinking about this. I kind of told the team this last night, so I'll never forget this. I was a rookie. I go to the New York Giants. Howard Cross was, 10-year, 11-year vet. He was a tight end. He was huge. Played a long time. But at that time, you just roll out there in pads, like we said. There's no acclimation. You go and so I'm a rookie, and he says, "Hey, Dan, are you ready?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm ready." He goes, "Okay, so when this thing goes down, make sure you got my back." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" "Well, when this thing goes down." I said, "What's going down?" He said, "Just have my back. Make sure you got my back." So it was like first period, team run. And it was like literally the first play. And one of our D linemen just slugs the crap out of our center, and it's all out. It's an all-out brawl. And I'm looking, there's Howard, and I'm like, somebody's on his back, So I'm running over there, and you're grabbing people. You're just trying to get involved, but yet you don't really want to be in there fighting in the middle of all of it. So it's really changed a lot since then, but it was like every day, first day of camp, here we go. That's not what I'm looking for. That was the point of the story. That's not what I'm looking for, guys. We're not out here to, but it was pretty funny. But anyway, so this will be good. I said it yesterday. Now we find out who can deliver some punishment and who can take some punishment, and see if we can condition ourselves to hit a little bit.
So, FYI, there no one is, getting hurt in the first day of pads down at Allen Park.
I was wondering where he was going with that.
Yeah, he didn't want anybody to, he wants everybody to know that they're not going to be going out essentially trying to kill each other on the first day, even though a lot of people get really jacked up, for the first day in pads.
Yeah, no one with Campbell's first first introduction to the Lions, biting kneecaps off and stuff. I was waiting for him to just finalize that and summarize it with. Yeah, so that's what we're looking for in day one. We're just hoping to get after each other. I'm like, where is this guy taking it?
Well, it's funny, too, because, you can't see the video clip of it, but, you could hear the emphasis of when he was like, and to see that, it's just the energy. So that is something that I do want to point out, and that a lot of the players have been referencing. And even Ian, when he went down there for the first day, officially the first day last week, he talked about some of that energy. But as the last week rolled on, and now we're into day 2, and this is going to be the first day. Week 2, sorry. And now it's the first day of pads. You can see that energy is definitely there and way different. And also, too, Alex, I don't know if you've seen this, but have you seen former players such as Darius Slay? He was asked about facing, the Lions again, how he felt about, just facing them again. And he said that, I was only going to be looking forward to it if Matt Patricia was there, but now I'm not.
Yeah, Yeah, it's clear that the Matt Patricia regime that was overdone for sure. Because you're hearing it left and right from players, and if you're in a situation where the players, you don't need to be best friends with the coach. I think we all know that, but there has to be a level of respect first and foremost. You don't have to be buddies, but there needs to be a high level of respect back and forth, and that seemed to be very, very absent. So. And we talked about this, I think, a week or 2 weeks before or something like that. But my favorite part about that Campbell hire is I'm not so sure he's going to be the greatest X's and O's coach or game manager. I don't know. That remains to be seen. But I thought what the Lions needed more than anything else was a massive culture shift and a different, the relationship between the players and coaching staff needed to be healed before anything. And he seems like the type of guy that's perfect for that role. I think players given nothing else, really want to play for this guy. At least that's what it sounds like. They're excited to play for him. They're motivated to play for him. And there's a level of respect between him and the coach, him and the personnel. So from that standpoint alone, I think that this was a great hire. Obviously, we don't know what he's going to be like in game management. That's remains to be seen. He's the first time NFL head coach, so we'll see. But yeah, the Lions, you can bring, if you brought in just a guy that was a wizard with the X's and O's, that doesn't solve the problem, because it stems deeper than that with, just the chemistry and the team camaraderie. And I think they're moving in the right direction. And like you said, you can feel it. You can really feel it with, each press conference, from the interviews to the players, and really just overall in Detroit and that pro sports team. There's something brewing there. I don't know what's going to come out first, but there's definitely something brewing, and I'm excited for Detroit sports and especially Lions football.
Well, and the other part too is that yesterday, for the beginning of practice, you had Detroit Pistons general manager Troy Weaver stop by, along with head coach Dwayne Casey, and it really looked as though everybody was there was that renewed sense of optimism. And I hate to use that phrase because I feel like it's overused. It can be overused at sometimes. And then there were some other people being just straight up haters too about, this is what happens every single time that the Lions bring in a coach and a new regime and everybody gets so excited and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, let them do their thing. Just stop being a hater. You
got to give them a chance. Yes, it's tough being a Lions fan, and it's easy for us to just, pencil everybody into the same mold. But at some point, this has to change. I guess you can point to ownership. That's the one constant they've had. But it seems to me that at least Martha is trying to restore something, or create something here. Didn't give, I think she maybe a little bit too long of a leash, but you made the right decision on axing Patricia and starting over, which, if you look to 5-10 years prior, there's not a ton of confidence that move would have been made at that point in time. So, but yeah, I love the cohesion between the three sports teams, how they're really trying to make that, one program kind of with, Casey and Campbell and
Weaver.
Yeah. So everybody kind of coming together. Yep. And I'm sure that'll continue to be the same thing. And yeah, there is definitely a resurgence of some sort of energy coming through here, and it needed to happen. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and one player in particular who has already caught Campbell's eye is cornerback Amani Oruwariye. There are many Michigan State fans who should remember him. He played for Penn State. The Lions drafted him in the 5th round in 2019. He's been taking at nearly all the first-team reps at outside corner. This will be his 3rd season in Detroit, and he's hoping to hold on to the starting role, but this is what has impressed Campbell so far when it comes to Amani.
You know, I know Okudah gets a lot of attention for where he was drafted and the talent level and all those things, and he is improving. But Amani is just quietly getting better over there and doing his job, and I've been encouraged with him. He's a great kid too, man. Golly. I should say young man. He eats it up too. He's a football junkie. He's learning, he's growing. You can see his confidence. He understands his own ability and what he can do, what he's got to be careful doing, what he can get away with. But he's growing too. I mean, trust me, I'm excited to see what he looks like now that we're going into pads 2.
People have been mentioning how one group to look at for the Lions will be the offensive line this year, which is true. But the secondary, I think, is another position group who could probably, right now, it seems like is maybe the most ahead out of any of the position groups when it comes to the Lions as a whole. Because as you heard Campbell mention there, obviously Jeff Okudah, he was the 3rd overall pick in 2020, the Ohio State alum, another, Big Ten connection there. And, he did bring him up. And I think that the secondary should be pretty good to watch this year. I think that a lot of people are expecting Okudah to have a really big year. He's not a rookie anymore. Same thing for Amani. And the only hope for Jeff Okudah is that he can stay injury-free after having to miss, some of this, essentially quite a bit of the season last year, with having that season-ending surgery that he had.
Yeah, no, Okudah definitely had some struggles early on, and I think a lot of it too. I think a lot of Lions fans are down on Okudah just because of where he was drafted and how he performed in year one. But I think you kind of got to give him a pass for year one, just because I think he was put in probably one of the toughest positions that you could with the COVID. Obviously, that was something that everybody had to deal with. But then you give the fact that he had the hamstring injury, leading up to the season, so he didn't even really get to even with the limited, training camp or whatever you want to call it prior to the season, he didn't really get much involvement in that. So putting those two factors in, and then coming out of the gate, I think his first start was against Green Bay, and he was matched up against Devontae Adams, and then he had to, I'm pretty sure they played, he had to face DeAndre Hopkins in that season. He had a tall task coming off of a really short preparation for a rookie. So I think his talent is still there. I think everyone that would evaluate his talent still thinks that he is that guy that they drafted at number 5. So I would look to Okudah to take huge strides from last year, and then with the remarks on Amani, yeah. So with that optimism there, I mean, there should be some improvement in the secondary, and there's definitely some optimism in that position group.
And two, they lost quite a bit of skilled players from a receiver standpoint. So we are like, okay, how do you gauge or judge when it comes to the secondary? But there is a lot of should be. I guess the word here is optimism.
Pretty much and that's unfortunate, but it really is the only word we can latch onto it for Lions fans, because we don't have anything to kind of rest our shoulders on. I think you need to have it. Like you said, you can't be a straight up hater for each new coaching staff. You got to give them their chance, but I mean, it really is just optimism until we see a little bit of something.
Absolutely. And so we're going to shift. I want to mention too, more football talk here. The first day of fall camp for Michigan State football is right around the corner. It is on Thursday. And so this is a day that a lot of people have been pointing to for quite some time. Also, Michigan State announced yesterday that the annual Meet the Spartans event that is, a lot of people really love in the area is going to be back this year. It is the 18th annual Meet the Spartans event that's going to be held inside of Spartan Stadium on August 23rd. So if you're a Michigan State football fan and you want to get a look at the team, as they go through this fall camp phase, you can circle that on your calendar for August 23rd. The gates are going to open at 5:30. The actual event is going to begin at 6 o'clock and run until 7:30. And this is interesting, though. It's going to look a little different than it has in years past, because this is a part, I think why people really love this event so much is that they get to take their pictures with the players and they get to have autographs signed, whether it's a helmet or a poster or whatever else memorabilia that they want to bring and have signed. But they're not going to be doing that this year. They're not going to be doing any autographs or taking any pictures because of health and safety reasons, which makes sense because we're still, dealing with COVID. And, I've been waiting for Michigan State, too, to send something in terms of, because they obviously released, that the requirements for vaccinations for campus-wide, but they have not released anything when it comes to covering the team yet from a media standpoint. And so I'd be curious to see, if they are going to let people, if they're going to ask you if you're vaccinated or if you're not vaccinated or how that's going to work, because there have been a lot of other football programs across the country who have come forward and said that, put these guidelines into place that if you're not vaccinated, you can't come to practice.
Yeah, I'm on board with that too. I mean, I think why not even go a little bit further and just for attendance purposes, because I would have to imagine that majority of, the common, just the average folk, what are we at right now? Isn't it 70% vaccinated or something like that?
I thought it was around closer to 80%.
Closer to
Michigan.
80% now? Okay, those are good numbers. And I just, couldn't there be a way to, make it so if to buy a ticket to the game, you have to prove that you've been vaccinated. So that way everybody in the stadium is vaccinated, or is that going to be too many issues, indirectly?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I think that for them to have their distance for this, at least just for this that event, Meet the Spartans that I was speaking to, I think that is important just because you just have to be conscientious still that COVID is still around. And the other different thing that they're going to be doing at that event is they're actually going to be holding a practice, and they've never done that before. They've never done a practice before inside of Spartan Stadium for the Meet the Spartans event. So I'm kind of curious to see what that all will entail. I'm sure it will just be like a glorified scrimmage.
Yeah, I think that might be their way of kind of replacing, all the other, amenities or whatever that come along with that event. And obviously, you're not going to be able to do all of that. So let's give the fans a little something extra. Maybe that's kind of where they're coming from. And with that with that new coaching staff and their awareness level of the fan base and what makes that tick, that wouldn't surprise me one bit if that was the reason. Because but sorry to go back a little bit. As of now, are we full attendance still for MSU football?
Yes, Spartan Stadium is planning to have 100% capacity.
So that's still going, but they did release that the campus, on campus, you need to be vaccinated and masked. Mm-hmm. How is that? I don't know
I'm
how confused on how that's going to work. It almost seems like that was the first domino to fall, and we're going to find out a little later that the 100% capacity is in jeopardy or something like that, because it kind of seems a little counterproductive to have, the football stadium 100% open and then the campus itself very restricted. I just see some issues kind of surfacing there.
You'll have some people who are not going to be happy about that if that's the case, for sure, because it goes back to the old adage of, well, sports always gets to do things. Why is there an exception?
Yeah, it's not going to be a good look from that standpoint, like you're talking. I don't see that going over perfectly smooth if they were to do so.
Yeah. Well, we'll find that out shortly, I'm sure. First game is not too far away. Obviously, it's going to be on the road at Northwestern to open the season. So, but yeah, it's a lot of exciting things. Like I said, fall camp opens on Thursday. And, tomorrow we're not going to have a show because of, if you were tuning in on Monday, I'm going to be golfing in the Lansing Promise Golf Classic. And so we're not going to have a show tomorrow. And, we still haven't found out the time yet for when we can go to fall camp on Thursday. So that might cause a little issue again, because hopefully, I'm hoping it's in the morning usually. It'd be great if it was 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and then, be able to make way over here. But, we've got the fluid situation. Anyway, so hope everybody has had a super wonderful day so far on this Tuesday. Like I said, if you have any song that you want to share, because this is the hashtag Tuesday Tune Show, please put it on my Facebook page, The Audrey Dahlgren Show, or on Twitter at Dahlgren Show. And don't forget, you can always listen live to each of my episodes by downloading the Spotlight Radio Network app. And maybe I should say this too. If there's anything in general that you want to discuss, or you want to comment on, or you want to talk about, you can also put that on my Facebook page or on Twitter as well. I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily what it is that day, a mantra or quote that usually, I like to do. I kind of want people to start interacting a little bit more. If you have a thought or something that you want to share with me, go ahead and do that. And so that'll wrap up the show for today on this Tuesday. I hope everybody, like I said, has a great day. And hopefully we'll see you on Thursday, and we'll have a lot of great things to share when it comes to Michigan State football and that first day of fall camp. It should be good.